to Burma Votes 2010. My name is Nicholas Farrelly and this is a special update brought to you from the Australian National University's College of Asia and the Pacific. This update is designed to give you all a bit of a sense of what we're thinking about this past weekend's elections in Burma. Those are the first elections held in the country for 20 years, and while the results, as we heard last week from Dr. Morten Pedersen, aren't really in doubt, it's still intriguing and interesting for all sorts of reasons. Today I'm going to be talking through three of the themes which I think we probably need to pay the most attention to. The first of those themes will be the results. When we're talking about elections, of course, we do need to pay at least some attention to who's been voted in and who's been voted out. The second of the themes will be the Burmese generals. In basically every single news report that you read about Burma, there'll always be some mention of these abstract people, the generals. Who are they, and at the end of the day, what do they want? I'll do my best to give you a bit of my sense at least. And then thirdly and finally, I'm going to be talking about the ethnic minority armies. Again, they tend to get a fair amount of coverage, and there's a great deal of interest in just what they might be doing in the immediate post-election period. My discussion of these three themes is all really designed to help us get well positioned for the later episodes of the Burma Votes 2010 vodcast and podcast series. The first theme that I think we should discuss today is the issue of results. Of course, when we talk about elections anywhere in the world, there's an understandable interest in who's won, who's done well, and who's failed to get that many votes. In the case of Burma, it still might be some time until we have the formal votes and results announced. In the meantime, though, there's a consensus that what we're likely to see is a very good result for the Union Solidarity and Development Party. This, of course, is the civilian vehicle, very sympathetic to the military regime, and in fact a vehicle that has been designed to bring many senior figures who used to wear military uniforms out of their military lives and into civilian politics. By joining this civilian political system, these military figures will now be entrusted with running the country under the new constitution and everything that that entails. But even though this Union Solidarity and Development Party is expected to do so well, it would be surprising if there weren't at least some micro-contests across the country where there were some other political outfits, perhaps of a very much more democratic inclination, that also did quite well. We could even see such democratic forces, at least in some electorates, beating those politicians aligned with the Union Solidarity and Development Party. This will be one to watch, and over the weeks ahead I really do expect that we'll get a better idea about how all of this is going to fit together. The second theme that I really think we need to pay a great deal more attention to is the Burmese generals. In basically every single news report on the country, and particularly on these elections, we have at least some mention of this shadowy group, the Burmese generals. Usually when they're portrayed in opposition to pro-democracy icon Aung San Suu Kyi, it's very easy to come away with the impression that the Burmese generals are evil incarnate. And in fact, it can often serve various political agendas to paint them as thugs, as stupid, and frankly as people who shouldn't be taken all that seriously. But what we have come to learn over these recent decades of military rule in Burma is that the generals have proven very effective at staying in power and at outmanoeuvring their opponents. How have they managed to do that? Well, I think there are a few ways that the Burmese generals have often surprised us. When outsiders have looked to analyse Burmese politics, they've often, I think, missed the opportunity to put the mentality and the culture of Burmese military figures in its proper perspective. One of the ways I think that we could in the future go about doing that in ways that were more interesting and provocative would be to look at the Burmese regime figures figures, these military strongmen, in the context of those military leaders who have come to prominence in some of Burma's neighbouring countries. And I'm thinking here of countries like Bangladesh and Thailand, both countries where we know a great deal more about the local military leadership. Burma, by comparison, has often been a bit of a black hole. It wasn't until this year, in fact, that the first major biography of Senior General Than Shwe was published. And with that biography, I guess we've got some extra details on who, at least that most senior figure in the Burmese system is, but we probably still sometimes miss the nuance and the adept way that these military figures have gone about running their country and now bringing it to this electoral, if not democratic moment. The third and final theme that I'm going to briefly introduce today surrounds Burma's ethnic armies. These are armies that have tended over recent years of civil conflict and ceasefire to set up bases in some of the mountainous areas around the very long borders that Burma shares with countries like Thailand, China, India and Bangladesh. Around those borders, these ethnic armies have managed in many cases to carve out their own small territories. And you can see here that there's a huge range of different armies that are involved. It's not that Burma just has one or two different non-government military factions. In fact, it has many, more than a dozen. These ethnic armies are large and small. The largest of them, the United Wa State Army, has a reputed strength of at least 25,000 men. Some of the smaller armies might have only, on a good day, say 100 or 200 fighters. But nonetheless, they do control some territory within Burma and they have local political followings. Their economic interests have been built up over recent years, and at least for those ethnic armies that have enjoyed ceasefire conditions, there have been all kinds of opportunities to get really rich. Jade mining, other gems are mined as well. There's timber that is logged, and there's all sorts of other opportunities to be involved in trade and other activities. The ethnic armies, though, are currently coming under a great deal of quite sustained pressure. Some are being forced to turn into border guard forces, which would be under the command of Burmese military officers. In other cases, they are actively preparing for war. As we're recording this update for the Burma Votes 2010 vodcast and podcast series, there have been reports of renewed fighting across the border from Mae Sot, which is on the Thai side, in the area around Myawaddy. The reports are that the Democratic Karen Buddhist Army, or at least a faction thereof, have been involved in fighting with Burmese government forces. This is a pretty remarkable turn of events, but it's one that hasn't really come as much of a surprise to those analysts who watch the country closely. There has been a long-standing expectation that Burma's long wars could once again flare up in the context of the immediate post-election period. We'll just have to see what happens, but for anybody who really cares about Burma's future, this is a worrying set of events. It's also a set of events that the Burmese government, this long-standing Burmese military regime, has done a great deal to precipitate. That's all we have time for today in this update to the Burma Votes 2010 vodcast and podcast series brought to you from the Australian National University's College of Asia and the Pacific in Canberra. Today I covered a few of what I at least think are some interesting themes surrounding these elections. The results, first and foremost, but then also the issues of the Burmese generals and the ethnic armies. All are issues, I might add, that we'll be returning to in the weeks ahead. In the coming weeks, I expect that we'll have an opportunity to talk to some people who've been pretty close to the action. Those interviews are ones that I'll hope you'll have a chance to tune into. In the meantime, if you'd like to leave comments for us, you can do so at the ANU YouTube channel, or of course, you can join in the conversation at newmandala. We would love to hear your feedback, your questions, and your comments. Until next time, best wishes to all.